G'day chaps, is I, Clumpatcher139. As I'm sure you've put together by my previous videos, I recently played a good old vanilla game of Batman Arkham Knight for the first time in years. And for the fourth time in my life, achieved the ever-coveted 240%. Feels like I should be prouder saying that, but man, I have no life. It required me to purchase a new internal drive to store the multiple hundred gigabytes worth of recordings over my 40 hours of playtime, but trust me, the experience was totally worth it, because it gave me a new insight into who I am as both a gamer and content creator. In re-achieving 240%, I needed to complete both the main game and New Game Plus, just as I had done for Origins and City before this. I used the main game to primarily collect story footage, and play it as I would have when I was a kid. Going after side missions right when they showed up, doing random street fights just because I felt like it, and most importantly, going after Scarecrow last so that I could get all of the Joker dialogue possible with all the villains.
So this is the end. No bones left to break, no heads left to crack, no pinky fingers left to, sort of bend backwards into a custom-made vice and slowly crush while you apply electric shocks to your victim's eyeballs. Oh, I always knew I'd be there when you died, Bats. I just didn't realize I'd be in your head.
Which then left New Game Plus to be a more traditional run for my common experience with the game. Rushing through the main story, skipping cutscenes, and trying to get everything done as fast as possible so I can just get to the boss fights, which are really the only reason that I'm doing any of this. And let me tell you, despite taking nearly a month break between the base game and New Game Plus, to tackle LEGO Batman of course, I absolutely hated the New Game Plus playthrough. This was one of the most miserable experiences I've had playing an Arkham game in years. And it wasn't even because of any self-imposed challenge or stupid restriction. It was purely because I was playing the game like I had been playing it for years. And then it dawned on me. I've been playing Arkham Knight wrong for nearly half a decade. Arkham Knight is not a game meant for blazing through, skipping cutscenes, and saving the side missions for last. The game is actively designed against the player doing that, with long unskippable animations, interactive cutscenes, and points where the game itself tells you to slow down and go protect the city through side missions.
Two-Face and Penguin loose in our city? We need to show them who's boss! So, whose throat are we gonna slit first?
Which is what made my main game run some of the most fun I've had with this game in years. For the first time in a long time, I'd played the game as it was intended to be played. Not as some fast-paced combat stealth simulator where I must go through everything as quick as possible, but as a true Batman experience. I drove and glided through Gotham, stopping crime where I saw it, solving riddles where I saw them, playing the game as if I was Batman, overwhelmed with options on this chaotic Halloween night. I was actually happy whenever the game slowed down and told me to just go explore Gotham for a bit, because even though I knew most of the encounters I was about to experience, it felt like I was exploring the city for the first time again, going out in search of someone to bring to justice. I would just be driving around, heading to one of Penguin's trucks or something. Then I'd suddenly see one of the APCs blitzing by and completely divert my attention to something different for a minute. Which might then lead to finding a roadblock I forgot existed, or a riddle I was suddenly reminded of, which I now have the components to solve. It was a seemingly endless cycle of rediscovering how much fun was always hiding in plain sight of this game, mostly due to the ever-evolving world. You can't just rush through every piece of a quest the moment it becomes available in this game. Because much like Batman's own arsenal in this game, the world itself is an ever-expanding and changing character in its own right. When you play the game in this way, you might see some progress every once in a while to take the city back, only then to be backhanded by the next story beat, revealing that someone else was waiting behind the scenes this whole time, immediately setting back any progress you might have made in reclaiming Gotham. Seeing those red lights of the watchtowers as I emerged from the most recent sub-area was a chilling reminder that I was far from done with my work, and kept me engaged long enough to keep tearing them down, along with every other mission that I would see while exploring. Hearing the bank alarms of Two-Face, the smoke-filled air of Firefly, the tiny burning bat symbol of Azrael, the giant destroyed airship of Croc, the haunting opera music of Pig, the sirens of Mad Hatter, or any number of green question marks for Riddler. All of their inclusions made the world around me feel so alive and ever-changing that I was never bored while exploring, doing something that I've already done dozens of times.
Very well. When we fight, I will not go easy on you, but unleash the full force of my fury. Your chances of doom increase exponentially with each of the 7 remaining riddles you solve.
By complete contrast, however, half the time during my New Game Plus run, I was just sitting there, scrolling on my phone, waiting for the long animation that I'd seen 24 times before this to play out. Because that was all I was there to do. I wasn't there anymore to experience the game again. I'd already seen everything. I was only playing to collect a few sparse pieces of dialogue and achieve that coveted completion percentage so I'd have that nice suit. I was back in my old ways, uncaring, going through the motions of a game I'd already played hundreds of times, just feeling whelmed at needing to do all of this again, just without riddles. And that feeling of doing this purely because I had to, not because I want to, just made the whole experience feel so bleh. The world wasn't changing around me anymore. I wasn't exploring to find new things I might have forgotten about. I was doing the exact same thing I just did, except a little bit faster because now everything was already present and I just needed to do it all in a single go. The only thing that changed a little bit was the difficulty, but nowhere near as much as it did in other games with New Game Plus. This run is where I realized that Arkham Knight's New Game Plus fucking sucks. Just from a quick overview of my footage and, my memory of playing both relatively close together, I saw how absolutely nothing changed between these two runs. The only major difference in runs that makes things quote-unquote harder is not having counter indicators and enemies overall being tougher. They did not change a single other thing about the game. In every other game's New Game Plus, City, Origins, and even Shadow, they changed up every single encounter at least the tiniest bit, adding in new enemy types, different weapons, and buffing up bosses to freshen the experience. It makes those games endlessly replayable because you get a different experience each time you play. This was my first time realizing that Arkham Knight doesn't do that. Every single encounter is exactly the same between game modes, meaning the only thing changing is how many hits you can tank before needing to reload the checkpoint. Even bosses don't get extra phases or anything. They take the same number of hits between both versions of the game. You get the exact same experience between the base game and New Game Plus, except allegedly being a little bit harder, only it's really not because you have all the upgrades when you start New Game Plus, making it super easy to breeze through most encounters. I can't believe it's taking me this long to realize that, especially with how many times I've played Arkham Knight and even completed it 3 other times before this. This especially was what made my second run so miserable. Not only was I doing the same missions back to back with no real break between them, but I was doing the same missions with no changes to any of them from the run I did just a month prior.
I fought a lot of guys like you, Batman. A lot of wannabe heroes. You're the best, but you'll die like the others.
The way to experience New Game Plus is with a completely fresh slate. You need to play it after a long break from Arkham Knight, with your mind almost completely blank to any of the story details or level design or what have you. Because if you don't, you're literally just playing the exact same game you just played again, with the only difference being no counter indicators and not needing to find any riddles. But that first playthrough, getting an oh-so-casual 120% in the base game, just sitting back and watching the story unfold before me, was genuinely wonderful. It all just felt right. I was finally playing the game as it was meant to be played again, and I was having an amazing time doing it. It was honestly the best playthrough I've done in years. But even with all of this said, experiencing Arkham Knight as it was intended all over again, this is still my least favorite Arkham game. The gameplay is great, but the story and implementation of so many different mechanics is just so bad, and takes so much of the good away from you at basically every opportunity. This game is still amazing, I do still consider it a masterpiece, and for the casual player, like 90% of my audience, I have no doubt that you'll enjoy it a lot more than me. But for someone whose career depends on playing and analyzing this game, I really wish it wasn't so damn repetitive. This fleeting enjoyment of the game was the best I've felt about it in years, and even still, it was almost immediately taken away when I was asked to try playing it again. So I probably won't for a few more years. But with all that being said, do all the YouTube stuff, because I think it's finally time to revisit Arkham Shadow again. Yay! Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later, chaps.
It's done. Gotham is safe. Thank you, Bruce. For everything. Goodbye, Jim.